What's up, you beauties? Welcome to High and Wide Hockey, episode 17 of season 7. I'm your host, Jim Michkov, joined as always by the one and only Jack Smith. And if you guys are catching us live on YouTube, make sure to smash the subscribe button and hit the alert so you guys never miss a show. For all the podcast listeners out there, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify so you're first in line when the newest episodes drop. We got a big episode for you guys tonight. The Flyers are coming off of their season-long road trip. We're absolutely going to talk about that. But before we do, Jack, speaking of on the road, talk to us about Fans of Philly a little bit.
Don't mind if I do. Flyers fans, we've got something special for you today. Looking to take your game day experience to the next level? Then look no further than Fans of Philly. With over 14 years of experience, they're the go-to team for putting together an unforgettable travel packages for the die-hard Philly sports fan. Why Fans of Philly, you ask? Let's break it down. These guys have spent years building the best relationships with bars, teams, transportation, you name it. Every trip they plan gets better and better, and trust me, they'll make sure your experience is top-notch. Whether it's scouting out the perfect hotel, finding the hottest nightlife, or securing the best seats in the arena, Fans of Philly has it all figured out. They know how to make your next trip an absolute blast, so head on over to fansofphilly.com, that's fansofphilly.com, and book your next Flyers road trip today.
Well done. The Flyers have a big road game coming up there, or Fans of Philly have a big road game coming up on January 21st against the hated rival New York Rangers, who are they still in the basement? Let me take a look. But the last time we had a show, they were in the basement. Yeah, they've made some moves since then. They are tied for last place in the Metro Division now with the New York Islanders. Man, it doesn't get much better than that. The only thing better would be to see Pittsburgh down there too. But the two New York teams down there in the cellar, each team 2 points behind the Philadelphia Flyers. Make sure you go to fansofphilly.com and sign up for the New York Ranger road trip at the Madison Square Garden to see the Flyers stomp the New York Rangers. Yeah. So, Jack, Flyers are coming off their season-long 7-game road trip, their annual Disney on Ice road trip. And, you know, they've been in every game. They lost the last two, obviously lost last night in Toronto in overtime. We'll touch on that a little bit there. There was a play by Michkov that got some people's attention there. They started the trip with the 7-3 loss to Pittsburgh, had a few days off for Christmas and whatnot. They were able to beat the Cutter Gauthier Anaheim Ducks in Anaheim. Took a loss to the Los Angeles Kings, a game they went into the third period with the lead. The Kings were a very good team. Kind of took that one away from the Flyers. They beat the San Jose Sharks 4-0 and struggled. So, I mean, it's kind of a microcosm of what this year's been a lot of. They've been able to beat some of the more less talented teams in Anaheim and San Jose, and they struggled with teams like the Los Angeles Kings, Toronto Maple Leafs, and Vegas Golden Knights, and not so much struggled in particular with these teams, but they can't finish these games out against superior teams, Shaq, right?
And it seems the wheels kind of fall off at some point during the game, particularly both games against the Kings. Like tied game going into the third or somewhat close, and they give up like 4 goals. Like it's just they can't give a full 60 to those tougher teams. So, but I see a lot of panic out there for the most part. Although last game, I'll have it being a loss. They played very well. Fedotov kind of coming in, hadn't played in like a month. Yeah. You know, he comes in. I talk about being cold. Whole goalie situation is just out of control. It's unbelievable when it comes to goalies in this city. And he actually plays pretty well. The 2 goals he gave up were just, I don't want to completely put it on him, but he's got to have better rebound control. I'll tell you, both goals were like the erratic, flopping around the crease kind of stuff. What are you going to do? I have to say, though, I was obviously happy with that. You know, Toronto's a lot better this year, first year. They have, what's his name behind the bench now? Greg Berube. They're looking a lot better in the regular season and whatnot. And the Flyers hung in there, and they ended up getting 1 point in the shootout loss. I'll take it. Maybe we'll have a little bit of revenge at home tomorrow. But yeah, the big issue with this team, and I'll argue with anybody because I'm seeing a lot of, the go-to thing is Tortorella every time. It doesn't matter if the team flipped their bus and everybody's playing injured or something. It's always the coach's fault. I think some of the forwards, like a Forster, like he scored again, and he kind of surprised me on that goal. It was a little far out. I mean, he surprised the goaltender too, but either way, that third line, Forster particularly, is really starting to come on, which is great. I can't say I know they're not the most talented bunch. I know Michkov took some heat for the and I don't even think that was Toronto's game. That might have been the other game. Flipping the puck over the net from behind the net. I'll ask you, Jim, before I move on. Like, what did you think of that and some of the pissiness that came the other way?
Ah, man, I was hoping that you weren't going to. No, I'm just kidding. I was hoping that you were going to ask me because I have some thoughts on that. And I didn't really. I'm not going to go crazy because it is Michkov and he's going to be a superstar, right? But I'm all for creativity and freedom. The good offensive players having the freedom to create and do things that aren't by the book for the system per se. But some of that stuff, man, it's kind of it's like, come on, man, what are we doing here? I think I was talking to our buddy Chris Bennett earlier today, and turnovers to me, when they're forced, I can be like, okay, what are you going to do in that situation? When you're just giving the puck up, when you're giving possession up, it should be looked at like a sin to give possession of the puck up, in my opinion, right? Like, you don't give up possession of the puck unless unless it's taken from you, you know? And so when you're flipping the puck over the net like that and just giving it away, that's going to irk the hell out of me. And Morgan Frost used to do that a lot and sometimes still does. And I think it's more accepted from him now because it just is part of his game. But I don't want to see that from Michkov. I think he's a smart hockey player, high IQ guy. So when I see him start to do stuff like that, I ask myself, why? Why is he doing that? Is he mentally fatigued? Does he not want to take the hit? Is he showing teammates up like, hey guys, you're not showing up for me, so I'm flipping the puck over the net? That's the only option I had in that situation. You know what I mean? So all these thoughts start popping up for me, and I'm like, you got to nip that in the bud now. You got to take care of that. I don't know what that is. I don't think you need to sit him a game or another game or whatever it is, but it needs to be corrected. Like, that's not the right play, flipping the puck over the goal, and there's 4 Maple Leafs right there, and the Flyers behind all 4 of them. Even so, if you want to ask me what is he supposed to do in that situation, just maintain possession of the puck until it's taken from you. This way the blame is not on him. It's where was his support? Who's showing up for a pass kind of thing. Now it's like, well, it's easy to say, Michkov, what the hell are you doing there? You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, you were a lot more negative than I thought you were going to be. I thought you were going to be like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of it.
I
went full in.
No, I really didn't like it. I don't like to see that. Yeah.
All right, I'll play devil's advocate a bit here. When Frost does it, I can understand your frustration, particularly when he loses the puck. We see Tippett do not so much flipping the puck up like that. We do see Tippett fling some blind or very low percentage shots and passes that immediately loses possession. Yeah. That is frustrating for a team that has had trouble maintaining possession, especially against better teams. However, it is Michkov we're talking about here. And maybe I don't want to mess with him in the offensive zone too much. I want him to remain creative. I want him to do what he thinks is the best, and have that include this highlight reel stuff. It's tough because the play ended up so bad, but like when he does in Michigan, a lot of times he doesn't even get the puck up off a stick, and sometimes it's it's turnover. And I don't want to disencourage him from doing that stuff. I understand where you're coming from, but I think even Torts said it's like, look, we're not going to mess with him offensively. And if Torts is saying that, then it must not be too big of a deal. This was just a big miss here, so yeah, it looks worse than it is. However, look, I think we just move on. Just move on. He's going to get better. He's going to get the man body and whatnot, and he'll be making this stuff look easy in due time. And it's just one of those growing pain things I look at.
Yeah, for sure. I just think if I'm the coach or if I'm somebody in that room, I'm just not going to let that go. I'm going to say, hey, this is a teaching moment for us. Like this, there's a higher percentage play to potentially be made in this case, or you know what I mean? I'm not going to make it a huge deal, but like if that continues to be like a thing where you're just kind of coughing up possession of the puck, unforced, per se or whatever, but not going to make a big deal, but it's if I'm a coach, it has my attention. That's something that we need to, if that's something we need to work on, because you can't just cough the puck up like that. So that's all.
It's new. It's not like
Yeah.
another failed Michigan or something like that. Although he's getting closer and closer,
Yeah.
and you're giving up possession in a tough shot. It's a completely new thing. So,
Yeah.
like I said, I think they'll just monitor. Like he's not continuously doing crazy stuff like that, giving up possession, and I think it's a situational thing as well. Like if you're at the end of the 5 minutes left in the third and you're tied 3-3, you really don't want to be giving up possession. But if you're in the middle of the game and you're in the moment. I don't know. Isn't he supposed to be the guy who kind of tries those things though? He's the talented, playmaking guy who has a mindset for doing things the normal player wouldn't. So when it doesn't work out, it's very easy to be like, well, it's like coaches in the NFL when they pick a goofball play on fourth down and lose yards. They look like complete morons. But if it works, you know what I mean? They look like a genius. So he's young. He's just turned 20. It's just one of those things. So I don't want to get you too riled up, Jim.
No. I mean, I could easily, I easily could, because I'm like a stickler for that. Like if you want to keep possession of the puck, like that's, aside from scoring goals, that's kind of the name of the game, puck possession. And so when you're just giving it back to the other team for free, it irks me. That's all.
I get it.
All right.
It's a universal thing, no matter who you are. If you give up the puck, Jim's pissed off.
Yeah, I mean, like I kind of am, like, cause I'm not gonna make this a big deal. I could, but it's like, it's Michkov, he's going to score 40, 50 goals one day. So if he turns the puck over, tossing it over the net once in a while, I can live with it. But
get it out. We're not trying to win technically. So get all this out of the way now.
Yeah, sure. That's a good way to look at it. Sure.
There you go.
All right. So Flyers coming off their season-long road trip. They got a couple guys going, particularly Jack, this third line of Tyson Forster, Noah Cates, and Bobby Brink is still cooking. Tyson Forster, 3 goals in his last 4 games. I think I saw last night Noah Cates has like 10 points in his last 12 or his last 10 games. And this is, it is crazy, right? Noah Cates, 10 points in 10 games. Like,
where's this offense for the last 2.5 years? We want more offense. And wow, he's looking like not quite as defensively good as Coots, but he's putting up some numbers right now. It's only a stretch, but it's definitely what you want to see. I mean, they're doing what they're barely hanging on with very league worst goaltending and their third line, de facto third line, being their best line.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Like if they had last year was if they had a decent power play, they would made the playoffs easily. This year, if they had just competent, around 900 save percentage goaltending, where would they be? Where would they be right now if they had competent goaltending? Because let's be honest, the goaltending is well below average from all 3 starters. Unfortunately, I never thought that was going to be the case this year. It kind of looked like, Sam Ersson was playing well and they were figuring out the backup goalie situation, and kind of all went to shit in the last couple weeks there.
It's really bad. It's it's like the one glaring thing completely affecting the team, and it's got to be a little bit of a problem because when you give up the goal where Kolosov hit his glove and went over and in, that is a demoralizing goal. You have to have that. And I'm not saying the team stops playing or anything, but it's definitely an issue. And it would be a real damn shame if the team started getting on each other and finger pointing, although there should be a little bit of that. But it ultimately comes down to, and I'm not looking at the coach, I'm looking at the front office. I'm like, now I understand the Fedotov signing and whatnot. A lot of that had to do with Michkov. You're still a little bit in a spot because of that. You don't have any veteran anywhere near being able to play unless you're talking about Peterson, which is just a scary thought. And then you get strong-armed by Kolosov. Now you're in this situation. And it's just now I'm at the point where I'm so irritated because he's supposed to be good, but now it's screwing shit up. I think they really need to consider, we'll give him a couple more games here. We'll see if Ersson comes back. Let me put it to you this way. Is it fair that a guy like Andre gets sent down and he's watching this team and he's like, Fedotov and Kolosov are still up there, huh? But I got sent down? This is some bullshit. And especially in Kolosov's case, because there's no finances to consider there. He should be in the AHL. his trajectory based on his career, everything pointed to the AHL, and he strong-armed the organization, which is, and I get it now, they treat prospects, they got to coddle them because they'll bitch and moan and find themselves on other teams and screw you over because the NHL and teams let it happen, and now you're in a situation like this. And it's like, well, you hope they play out of it. You hope Urson, who comes back from a groin injury, which I believe, I don't know whenever he had surgery, was a groin issue, supposed to fix the issue. And he seems, I don't know if it's the same spot, but it's still the groin again. And it's the most reoccurring injury. If he's a Neuwirth, and then you got Kolosov and Fedotov doing their thing, it's like a stealth tank. But I like to see competitive games at least. And with the goalies giving up softies, that competitiveness is just not going to be there. We'll see. But it's really looking bleak right now. And it's really just the goaltending. Like, I can't complain about too much else outside of a play here and there. This goaltending is going to derail the season. And I'm not saying about making the playoffs. I'm saying about having a productive season where players are growing and whatnot. And I thought I read something online where it said people are regressing. Nobody's growing. I'm like, that was the dumbest comment I've ever seen. If you want to talk about the goaltending, be my guest. But you're telling me Ristolainen didn't completely turn his situation with the Flyers around? You're telling me that Sanheim isn't a completely new player and Konechny's a full-blown, superstar? Yeah. And look at the third line we just talked about. Like, if people are regressing, nobody's progressing. What? It's just idiotic. It's and it's Twitter, so take it with a grain of salt. But it's masking, it's overshadowing anything that these individual players are doing on offense and even defense and whatnot. And even with that being said, if they have that goaltending where they're just solid, middle of the pack, NHL pack, the Flyers may still not be a playoff team, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But to see something so badly affecting the rest of the team, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. If they could, like we said, if they just had decent goaltending and a decent power play, who knows what would be happening. I do think that there's an interesting comment here, and I don't want to really get back on the Michkov thing. I just want to bring this up real quick because, I don't know, we'll see. Sean C. comments, the low percentage spinorama attempt in OT was more annoying and that's without leading to a goal. Matvey 2 months ago cuts to the middle and fires it on net. And obviously he's talking about Matvey Michkov there, Jack. And I don't know how true or not that is, but I don't know. Maybe the season is taking a toll on him a little bit. Maybe he is, maybe they do gotta. I'm not saying it's got to be as drastic as they were with Bobby Brink last year, but maybe they do have to space some of his games out here. Do you think we end up seeing Michkov miss a couple more games or a few more games down the stretch? Yeah, we got a lot of games coming up in January and I think March too.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, it did well from last time. I mean, you can tell there was such fire in him in September, October, and November, and he just feels like he's going through the emotions a little bit, not in necessarily a negative way, but this guy came in playing hard in the rookie game on. Yeah. He's played more than we realized because he's played pretty much every preseason game, rookie games, all that stuff. And then he's playing for the first time in the NHL, October, November, running hard, being a big part of the team. And it was not shocking that he hit a bad little, how many games with 5 goals, scoreless in 5 games. And before that, he wasn't really racking them up. Gets 2 points and really hasn't had many points since. It's tough. I just don't see that fire really in there. I think that comment is exactly what I'm getting at. He's taking it himself, trying to make something happen. And he's only 20. He just turned 20 years old, and he had 3 solid months of playing some pretty hard hockey. 2 of them at the NHL level for real. And and probably more than that. Probably not giving him as much credit as I should. He's in his stride. He's a young kid. Just remember, he's not even supposed to be here yet. We're supposed to be 3 years. We waited 1. So just take it in, let him do his thing, get used to it, grow into his man body, get used to the 82-game season. In his case, it kind of was more. You have to give him a game or 2 off. Why not? What are we trying to do? Make the playoffs? We're serious? People only get mad about that shit because if they're going to the game, maybe make it away games. Because they want to see Michkov. I want to see him too. I want to see him every game. When he's out there, I'm glued to him. A lot of times I miss some of the action because he's not involved in his defensive zone, and I kind of miss what happened. So I want to see him do things. It's exciting. But that doesn't mean the guy can't sit now and then. They're humans. It's not a big deal. People freak out. They would just want every young guy playing at all times. And if they're getting crushed, let them play through it, which is a horrible idea. I can't get on board with that, and just manage their times, make sure they're learning, go over the film with them, what they did right, what they did wrong. That's more important than anything. Than he has to produce points now. Yeah. If he's not doing it, go get the center, go do this, go do that. And I don't know. Maybe because I'm older now, I just don't freak out. Once we're ready to win, I will freak out about the most meaningless loss because it's time to win. I have gone off the rails. But when we're in a rebuild like this and we've already got a superstar player here, it's really hard for me to complain. My biggest thing is it's the goalies. It's really it. And then we can move on to the next thing. I'm a little worried about Couturier. He had a hell of a pass to Lawton, but his overall watching him skate's like watching him skate in sand. Like it is getting rough. And I'm worried about that, and I'm worried about the future with him.
Speaking of, Jack, I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here. I know Kenny wants to talk about Sam Ersson, and we'll talk about him in a little bit. Speaking of, though, Scott Lawton, I think he has like 12 points in his last 11 games. Let me just make sure here.
And let me add one more thing to that.
Yeah,
because we'll see this trade deadline. We'll see. I don't know. I believe the team that was rumored to have offered a first-round pick for Lawton, I don't know if there was other pieces in that, was Toronto. And that was the team he scored against. So, Lawton and Ristolainen to Toronto for a first plus. What do you say? No, I don't. Just but go ahead. Yeah, no, it was a good team to press against. And he got off to a slow start to a season last year. Kind of the same here. I don't think it was as bad, but really December and now January. Whoo!
Yeah.
So we want to see. Come on, keep it going to the trade deadline, baby.
The 4 goals in one game definitely helped pad the stats a little bit, but 12 points in 11 games is 12 points in 11 games.
I think it got him going a little bit too. He had some points before that, but he for his role, and they've also, when they've had injuries or had to juggle up the lineup, they threw him to the top line center. It's like, hey, look, we don't have many centers. Here you go. You've been playing well. You've been putting up points. Yeah. Go for it.
And he's got 8 points in his last 9 games without the 4 goals. So, he's cooking a little bit here. And, a big road trip, 2 goals and 4 assists on the road. So, Scott Lawton's hot right now. And can he keep it up to the trade deadline? We'll see. I mentioned he still has that 1 more year on the deal. I have to imagine it's a reasonable contract, I think, as well. So I have to imagine there will be suitors. Will it just be worth the while for the Flyers to do it remains the question, I guess. And if it is a first-round pick, I don't know. I'm on record as I think going both ways here. I think in the beginning of the year and last year around the deadline, I was Lawton's too valuable to the team. If you get a first-round pick for him, it's going to be probably towards the back end of the first round. And what are the Flyers? They already have 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and you got another year of Lawton. So if this was his final year, I think it would be a different story. But with that extra year, not that it makes things tougher, but it gives you more to think about, right?
It does. And I was joking. I was just thinking about that as you were talking. If we were to theoretically move Ristolainen and Lawton both to Toronto, which will never happen because that'd be $8.1 million going into next year. And it's not like you're adding a super stud player, although we'll see where Ristolainen, and he's really looking good. He really played well against Toronto. He's another one to play well against Toronto. He was all over the place, knocking people down. Again, screaming. This is exactly what Toronto would want, what they've been missing in playoff past. But yeah, because of that, Lawton's only got 1 more year, $3 million. For what he brings, is that really bad? I don't think so. It's just the two together. However, teams will use it against the Flyers just to get a cheaper deal. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if it were reversed and we acquired Scott Lawton and gave him a first. I'd be pissed. I would be pissed. I'd be like, really? I'm glad we got the player. I used to wear such orange colored glasses back in the day. I remember we acquired Christopher Stieg for like a first and a third. And I was like, no, he's going to do this. I get why they did it. And it was not good. Not a good move to give him a first round pick plus. So that's Holcomb for you. It's either here or it's down here. But
kind of seems like the kind of guy where, maybe the team's not ready to compete. Maybe if they get into the playoffs and get lucky a little bit, but they're still in somewhat transition where they might have cap space next year. I'm trying to look for a team who that could be. Maybe Ottawa. Wow, man, a lot of teams kind of came back to 500. Montreal, Detroit.
Oh, the East, especially the Metropolitan.
There should be no shortage of potential trade partners come trade deadline because every
keep everybody
team
there. Keep everybody there. And I hope Ottawa is definitely in the mix for the and possibly in playoff position because there's so much pressure for them to make the playoffs. I can see them making a move. So I just want somebody to get desperate and finally start playing better. It's like, this is our chance. We've been pushing. We got off to a little bit of a rough start, but we're here. Those kind of teams will pull the trigger. They'll jump the gun and they'll make a move. And just hope that you're the guy on the other end of that. I don't want to call it a bad deal, but you overpay to get what you think you need. Like I overpaid to get Saquon Barkley, and what do you know? 4 years later, I won the championship.
No more fantasy talk,
right,
Jack.
I'm sorry.
Because you know what? Last week I was like, I feel good for Jack. Like I'm happy that he won. This week I'm like, God damn it, there's no more football, and I lost. You had to do it.
I'm sorry. It wasn't a shot at you though. It was a shot at everybody who shit on my deal.
If you didn't listen to the show last week, Jack beat me in the Dynasty Football Championship.
Pretty serious one.
That's where that comes from. Yeah. I don't know.
The point still, some teams will go get what they want and they'll overpay a bit to get it just so they can get it. I'm not saying they're giving up 2 first-round picks or anything, but we'll get what maybe somewhere close to what we're hoping we can get for certain players. Maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed. Kind of got to see what goes on with Vancouver. That's a big thing right now. So at least it seems like it. You ask them, they're very, hands
let's
off.
talk about that a little bit because I noticed you had Elias Pettersson in the notes and his name popped up on our show. I don't know if it was a month or so ago or not, but Elias Pettersson's name's being tossed out there. And, the Flyers are one of those teams that need 1C. And, while a Pettersson and Michkov tandem has the potential to be deadly for years and years. Now, it's weird to me because I can't remember the last time a guy signed a massive long-term extension for over $10 million a season, and then they got traded the next year. It seems like more like an off-season deal.
For sure.
But where's your head at with this, Jack?
I'm just taking, when I first heard this, I was like, no way. And I had already heard JT Miller rumors before that, with New York, which makes sense. He was drafted by New York, or that's where he made his bones. And he's also 3 years old, so it makes more sense for Vancouver to move JT Miller. So basically the understanding of the situation for those who don't know is that apparently JT Miller is a rah-rah, in your face, try hard. And Elias Pettersson is more like a Dougie Hamilton, just doesn't want to be bothered. I think Owen Tippett's like that a little bit. Just leave me alone. They all go out drinking. He goes to the museum. He's not a bad guy by any stretch of the imagination, just a little different. And some of those guys, when you have the guy in your face, they don't handle that well. So it's my understanding that these two players just do not like each other. They just do not like each other. And it's putting pressure on the team, the coach, Quinn Hughes, the captain, who is more of a Claude Giroux type in the sense that he shows on the ice, not so much in the locker room, from my understanding. I don't really know the Vancouver situation that well. So the reason both names have popped up is because, JT Miller makes the most sense, but he has, I believe, a full trade clause, full no trade, where Elias Pettersson does not. But I don't know if something kicks in with his deal. I don't know. But I think it's easier to move him if they were to go that route. It's just a hefty contract. He just turned 26. Center has already proven he's a damn good player in the NHL. And look, it'd probably be easier to trade him because you'd be getting all sorts of offers. And I guess what I was upset when I listened to a couple other pundits for the team, it's like, the Flyers probably wouldn't be in that mix. They would make a call, but they might not have the pieces. I'm like, might not have the pieces. Really? At that, the only person I'm not trading in an Elias Pettersson deal is Michkov. Anybody else can go. And I thought they could put together a package 2 first-round picks, Morgan Frost, Joel Farabee, Ristolainen, I don't know, Oliver Bonk, something like that. But we'll see. I really don't see Pettersson getting traded, but just remember that this is where this all started, and I'm definitely something I'm keeping an eye on going forward, because we've talked about this. Until somebody becomes available, like the young guys, we talked about Zegras to death because he was really the only guy at center who would grow with this team that would make the most sense. And then it was Rossi for a little bit. Well, here's Pettersson, and Pettersson's better than anybody we have potentially named. So if God forbid he is made available, Danny, make some magic happen. I mean, this is the time. If you're holding back for something like this, this is the time. I mean, damn, just turned 26 years old, put him with Michkov and who the hell else? And I don't care what you give up. Make it happen. I mean, that is what I'm talking about. But it already just saying it seems way too good to be true. So I guess we'll just monitor it and see what happens.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at Vancouver's roster here, and so I'm just noticing that Hronek is on long-term IR. You just signed a 8-year deal for 7.25. I think he's left side. No, he's a right shot D. Okay. But after Quinn Hughes, who plays left side, and Philip Hronek, who plays right side, there's not much going on with the Vancouver defense. And so if we're tossing names out, Cam York's a guy toss out. I don't know. I don't know if they'd be interested in Ristolainen, but they could make something work
they
for sure.
Tyler Myers.
They do. He just signed so he's on year 1 of a 3-year deal. Their second pair, Carson Soucy, who I don't know how special he is. He's on year 2 of a 3-year deal. And then Noah Juleson is on year 2 of a 2-year deal. He's 27 years old. And then their bottom pair is nothing really to write home about either. And they're all on, cheaper contracts aside. Soucy's making 3.25. So if they wanted to find a way, if the Flyers wanted to do something here, they have the ammunition. I would assume it would take a replacement player for Pettersson, center-wise, and I'm not sure the Flyers have that. Because
it's got to be Morgan Frost, right?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody else makes sense. What you do, give him Paling? It doesn't make sense. Not taking Coots, obviously. Right. Then if they traded Cates, I would be shocked. But that means they got the deal done. So would I really be all that upset? However, from Vancouver's perspective, it's like we want a bottom 6 guy. We want somebody who can play, in the top 6. So in addition to what else we given them, I could see that being maybe Frost. But I don't know. I feel like I can make it work in NHL, video game. But I don't know. But we can make this great package, and somebody else can come along and top it. I guess
that's true too. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see. I mean, we should start making a list of potential centers. Like we mentioned it in the summer, like talented centers moving is not as rare as we think, right? Like Ryan O'Reilly, we've been talking Trevor Zegras. Now we're talking Elias Pettersson, or even JT Miller, whichever one of those guys gets moved. Dylan Cousins keeps popping up. Marco Rossi's name's popping up. So maybe it's not as rare as we think it is. Maybe the Flyers actually could still, pick up a center via trade in the next year or so. It just has to be the perfect situation. And this Vancouver thing, if I haven't watched a lot of Elias Pettersson, admittedly. So I guess I might sound a little bit more, I'll say pessimistic, because I don't want to say negative, because I know that he's a good hockey player, he's a good offensive player. But that's $11 million coming onto your books. That's a lot of money. But I guess that's the going rate for a top line center, right?
Yo, yeah. I mean, especially nowadays. Luckily the cap's going to continue to go up, but you can see it. Like, look how much money Konechny made. And I love Konechny, but it's just the way it's going. I feel like it gets me every year. For a while, it took me time to realize that this is just the way of the league. I still remember when I heard the rumor that both Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane were going to sign for $10.5 million. And I remember being like, there is no way. Crosby's only making 8.7. There's no, and they both did. And I was like, holy shit. Now I get it. They won multiple cups, but somebody's always pushing that envelope, man. It's going to be the norm. It is what it is. Make the cap space. You're going to get some cap space. Who cares? If you're looking at a top line young center like that, guys are being paid now more in their prime. it's the way of the league. So I'm not worried about the contract at all.
Okay. Good stuff.
You make it happen, obviously. Don't
Yeah.
kill yourself.
So that's something to keep an eye on. And like I said, we'll have to put a list of names together. And Ottawa's got like 2 or 3 guys that their names popped up, and Josh Norris and Shane Pinto. So maybe not as rare as we think. Maybe something will actually end up happening. So something to keep an eye on.
We shall see.
Excuse me. Okay. So we talked about some rumors. We talked about some good play on the Flyers side. We talked goaltending a little bit.
I do have one more question about goaltending.
Yeah.
I just want to throw something out to you.
Sure.
So we did talk last week about potentially adding at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And I don't think it needs to. Well, the question isn't necessarily for the trade deadline. Still out on that. But what we discussed with goaltending, say Erisson's just out. He's not. If he comes back, he goes back out again, or he just doesn't come back. It's just a big issue for up until the trade deadline. And Fedotov has his strong games and a lot more of his weak games, or he has a decent game, but he has too many softies. And same with Kolosov. Do you think the Flyers, to salvage some of this year, and I'm not even talking about winning, just playing competitive games, do you think they explore the trade market? And I'm definitely not talking about anything significant, to bring in somebody to just hold bridge the ship or get us to the offseason or something like that?
I gotta be honest. I kind of hope not. Like if this is the bed that they made, kind of thing, and you kind of got to lie in it. You got 3 goalies on your roster, and none of them are above average right now. And if there's anything, so I guess it's easy for me to say if there's anything that you want to put blame on Danny Briere for, it could be this goaltending situation. However, it's not necessarily an ordinary situation, right? Like I said, it would be easy just to be like, what the hell, Briere? Like you brought in 3 guys and none of them can play. And, I think they put all their eggs maybe in one basket with Sam Ersson, who quite frankly, I thought was going to have a good year this year, and there's still a half a season left, but hasn't looked up to standard, at least that I thought he would. And now he's battling injuries. I mentioned that he's going through some mental stuff with the injury. So if I was going to project the rest of his season, I would say, I wouldn't expect him to, come out of nowhere and start putting up a 910 or a 900 save percentage, the rest of the way there. I'm not confident the same way I was in Ersson at the beginning of the year. And Kolosov's kind of just showing you that he's not ready for the NHL. And Fedotov, I think at this point in his career, like maybe he'll start to make adjustments at the NHL level, but I think he just kind of is what he is. And like I said, the situation, it wasn't really a normal situation. They had to bring over Fedotov, went through the military stuff. We've heard a lot about how his contract was potentially tied in and had a lot to do with getting Michkov over. So, you kind of suck it up for a season or two. If you're Danny Briere, if it means getting Michkov over here, you kind of suck it up and hope that everything pans out a little bit, and it just hasn't,
Yeah, and it is definitely a strange situation, but ultimately, if the Fedotov thing was, and I'm sure that Kolosov threw them a massive wrench here. I'm sure they were like, we're going to go with Ersson and Fedotov, and we're going to deal with Fedotov no matter what happens because he helped get Michkov here. Then Kolosov strong arms the team. Now he's here. Now you're in a pickle. But the only good part of it was, and I don't think Ersson's injury is a good thing, but having the extra goalies on the roster already to play is a good thing. Just nobody's any good. It's like I thought Ersson was playing fine, a couple of stinkers in there, but it wasn't until the injuries cropped up that now I feel like he can't get into a groove. It's in his head, like you said, and now it's in probably the Flyers' head. They're keeping goalies up here and whatnot, and who the hell knows what happens with that? But everything about it scares the shit out of me. He's already been compared to Neuwirth, which is very, very bad. That was horrific how that went for the Flyers, that tenure. Hopefully that's not the case. We'll see. And then we already know our woes with Kolosov and Fedotov. So for me, I'm kind of with you. I ultimately don't hope they do anything. I don't think they should be spending any assets. If they traded a 6th or 7th or both, I could live with it because the odds of hitting on anybody, whatever. But I think they should keep an eye on what they should have done last year. If you remember at the trade deadline, there's a lot of waiver moves after the trade deadline. Antti Ranta could have been had for free, and I know he's an injury-prone guy himself, but at that point, it's March. You got 2 months left. You see what you have and see what happens this year. Maybe there's somebody they're trying to sneak through the system or something, a prospect pops up and knocks another guy out of playing position, and he could be had for very, very cheap. Some teams just wanting to get rid of the contract as long as it's a 1-year deal. Maybe they do something like that, but ultimately I'm with you. It's not really worth moving anything. And team has kind of slipped into the bottom 10 now. I think I saw a draft projection. They were drafting like 7th again or around there or something like that. The guy had my name essentially. I think it was Jackson Smith or something.
Lucky number 7.
I'm not sure because I haven't looked, but they're down there, and they, self tank, baby.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They're officially in the top 10. They're appointed. I think a couple teams must have won. I think Montreal got hot. Columbus is kind of hovering around 500. The Red Wings are now just a point behind. The Ducks are just a point behind. And then you got the Rangers 2 points cracking. Like the Flyers could easily slip into the bottom 5 here if they go on even just a 2 or 3 game losing streak. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams directly behind them, all within 2 points. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. And in front of them, if the Flyers win a game, they jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams, a 2-game winning streak, and they jump 7 teams, 8 teams. It's pretty crazy how.
That's right.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. It's a lot of 500 hockey being played. Which I don't know if that's good or bad. What's the term the NFL uses? Parity. There's a lot of parity in the league.
Oh yeah, for sure.
This year it kind of looks a little more top heavy to me. But yeah, a lot of parity. That's a nice way of saying the league's a little mediocre. How about that?
Middle is all sorts of jumbled, man. It certainly is.
Yeah, and here's hoping. Hey, maybe they go on a 5-game losing streak and they get a top 5 pick because
that would be something.
They ain't winning the Stanley Cup this year.
Is there some universe where and it sucks. I don't want to see them get pummeled this year, but if they were to slip and maybe get a 1st-round pick for Risto or whoever, and then I don't even care if it's 2026, and then go into this draft and their own pick, if they were able to get like a Misa, oh man,
yeah,
like I would cry. I would be really. I mean, who knows it's a prospect, but damn, I've heard of it. Like, there's a couple of names in this draft I've known for a few years. I didn't know what draft they're going to be on. I just heard the name. And Misa's one of them. Hagens is another one. And there's somebody else ranked above both of them now. It's just like, man, just get it. Oh, top 5, top 10 center. You have 2 other picks to play with. Hopefully they move them in a trade. It's a good draft. You've been saying that. There could be a light at the end of the tunnel here. Just a little one.
Yeah, we'll see. So speaking of goalies, there's a couple things. So we do want to get to our Flyers All-Century team. It was the title of our episode. We used it for our little thumbnail on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure you head over to YouTube and give us a like and a subscribe. But we're going to talk goalies tonight. And before we get into goalies, and we were supposed to do this last week, Jack. You mentioned it before the show, but we want to give a shout out to our good friend Jason Martinez, and give our thoughts and prayers to him along with whatever he's going through. I think he was diagnosed recently with bout of cancer, which he's no doubt going to kick its ass. So we want to give our heartfelt thoughts and prayers out to Jason and his family. And he just keeps on trucking, man. He's a strong dude.
Absolutely, yeah. We were all over Twitter with that, and only the good. I feel like this kind of stuff happens to, man. So he's a strong dude. He'll be fine. We know he will be, and he's always been a friend of the show, and just an all-around great, knowledgeable Flyers guy. Flyers fan, always has been.
Yeah, tough to find a better guy. Even when we first started up, and we asked him to talk hockey, he was more than happy to come on, and that's just the kind of guy he is. So, he's going to kick the shit out of this, and the faster the better for Jay. So we wanted to make sure we gave him a shout out because we're thinking about him.
Absolutely.
So, all right, let's talk goalies in the spirit of Jason Martinez, who loves goaltending. Let's get to our goalies. So throughout the rest of our show tonight, guys, we're going to pick 3 goalies to make our Flyers All-Century team. And we want you guys to kind of give us a hand in the comments. I know it's kind of a slower night. The Flyers are coming home from their road trip. They're back on home ice tomorrow night against Toronto. So we're going to try to have fun with this. So we're going to pick 3 goalies to fill out. We're going to make an entire roster, all-century Flyers roster. Tonight we're doing 3 goalies. Submit yours in the comment. We have some ideas. We're going to toss out some names and see who we can agree upon. Jack, do you want to get us started?
All right. You want me to name the whole list or just name a goalie and we'll just discuss?
Yeah, just pick out go through, pick out the more notable names who might bring up some old memories.
We'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. Why don't we go? We'll burn through some of the funny names.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So a couple of names that I will not be picking in my top 3, but technically we're with the squad in the quarter century here. Let's go all the way back to Sean Burke. Do you remember Sean Burke?
I sure do, man.
Oh my God. I talk about a guy. He was never really good here. He was decent elsewhere at times, but I hear that name and I go back to like when I was in elementary school. Like I really feel like 5th grade, PlayStation 1, like I really go back to those times. So he's very nostalgic, but no chances he making the squad.
No.
Taro Niittymaki. I remember it, obviously 04 Calder Cup champ with Richards, Carter, Upshaw, that whole mega team, that they had with the lockout and whatnot. People thought he'd be pretty good. Didn't work out, didn't pan out. Ultimately was maybe a backup goalie at best. I don't even know when he stopped playing.
So I have him. So every time you name a guy, I'll bring up his stats here. So he stopped playing professionally in, it looks like the SM Liga. So I think that's the Swedish. What is he? Oh, probably the Finnish league. So that was 2012 to 2013. So over a decade ago, he played 4 seasons with the Flyers. Usually it has the game totals at the bottom here. I could probably find that on Hockey Reference, but yeah, 4 seasons with the Flyers, mainly backup. Decent numbers, okay numbers. But yeah, Niittymaki's a good name to bring up.
Marty Biron. You remember Marty Biron?
I do. I used to love saying his name.
Yeah.
Marty Biron.
He's a nice guy, man. I met him at a Otts in Medford. Really nice guy. Was here at probably one of the worst seasons the team had in quite a while.
Yeah.
What was that? 06, 07 year. Yeah, no, they came out of the lockout and then they made the playoffs, got bounced. Very next year, not so good. Nice.
I'm sorry. It's funny that you bring him up because I don't remember like fond memories of Biron as a Flyer. But I'm sitting here looking at save percentages and we were just talking Flyers goalies. And he during his 3 seasons as a Flyer, I'm looking at 908 save percentage, 918, 915. And it's like, man, these guys are struggling to get above 880 today,
Yeah, it's funny. I think finding a goalie above 900 is a lot harder than it used to be.
Yeah, it's true.
But hey, it is what it is. Different league. Michael Leighton, and we could never put him on that list. As good as he was against in the Montreal series, you cannot have him on your list after the way that playoff run ended, that Stanley Cup run ended. Like, I'm sorry. No. Came out of nowhere. I never thought he was all that good to begin with, but lightning in a bottle. It was working. Looked great against the Canadians, who were the 8th seed, mind you. So it's, not had thanks for your service, but you're only really remembered for one thing, pal.
Yeah. God damn it.
Yeah. So Ray Emery, may he rest in peace. If a lot of people, same year as Leighton there, a lot of people don't. We talked about this with Russ Cohen. He was a Flyer starting goaltending in the 09-10 season. People forget about that because he got hurt and never returned. And it was Boucher and Leighton to the end, all the way to Game 6 of the frigging Cup.
Who did we had somebody on?
Russ Cohen.
Was it Russ that said that?
Russ. Yep.
I thought we had maybe a former player on too that even said to us maybe I don't want to name it.
Okay, that what you're talking about with that was a different. Yeah, I know what you're referring to.
And they
said he was healthy the whole season.
If Emery was our goalie in the Cup, we would have won the Cup.
I mean, you never know. I don't know if we can make it through the playoffs like we did because that Boston series. It was when did Boucher get hurt? Like it was halfway through that series. Like I can't remember.
I can't even remember who said it, but it was a player, right?
Yeah. No. Emery had he was pretty good back then. Like he had issues, like he was attitude issues, things that off the ice, locker room kind of stuff. But I remember I think he was the starting goalie on the Ottawa squad that went to the Cup in 5 or 6 or I forget. He had a hell of a run and it was a hell of a team. I think Chara was on that team back then, and so he definitely had the skill. And yeah, I don't know what the injury was, but we didn't see him again until he came back as a backup in like
Yeah.
14 or something.
Yep.
And that wasn't nearly as pretty, but he was a backup, so it is what it is. But loved him, beat the living piss out of Holtby. We'll never forget that.
No.
That was good to see. That's a good flyer for you right there. A couple other, we mentioned Neuwirth earlier. Obviously, he's not going to make the list with all his injury history and all that crap we went through.
He's like on the anti all-century team, Neuwirth.
Yeah.
One of the poster boys for all the shit that's happened in the last decade or so.
Exactly, for sure. However, his counterpart, Brian Elliott, I take him right now. I call him out of retirement and throw him in just to get us.
Would you?
Yeah, well, I think he can give us 890. You don't think?
The former 9th round pick, Brian Elliott, by the way. I mean, there was only 7 rounds now. He was in it when they had 9.
We're getting to Paul. We're getting to the good goalies in a minute. I'm just running through some. We're going to leave Carter Hart. We're not even going to have that conversation. We're just going to acknowledge he was a Flyers goaltender, and we're going to move on.
It's a shame. I mean, he wasn't even around long enough to be mentioned, but it's. I have some stuff on Carter Hart that I could talk about, but I'll do it after the show.
Oh, Jimmy.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Oh, everyone. Jimmy. Let's go back to. I'll go back up. Now we're going to start naming guys who are actually in consideration for our top 3.
Yeah.
All right. Roman Czechmanek. You got a stats, Jim, because all I remember is damn good goaltending for a damn good team that ultimately came up short because they couldn't score at the right times, and him yelling at the team from center ice.
I thought you were gonna. You got to bring up the cranium caroms. The guy used to headbutt pucks with his
Well,
mask.
the part 2 of that is the team was so upset with him doing that in the middle of the game, showing him up that the next practice, they were firing every puck as far as they could right at his head. Like, yeah, I've heard that from a former player. So that was he was a nutcase, and he passed away. Remember, like he was only like 54 years old or something crazy a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
when the team really needed to finally get a goalie, it felt like they got enough. I'm not saying he was a superstar, and then just like the rest of the team just couldn't score. And I remember that Ottawa series, it was like a first round series. I think the whole series they scored 3 goals, like something wild like that. Like they just got shut down, and they lost like every game by like a goal. And like Czechmanek did his part. They couldn't score. He was a wild man to begin with.
He was great. I mean, numbers wise, he was great with the Flyers. Looking at save percentages.
They got him.
Yeah. 921 save percentage in his rookie season, played 59 games, 35 wins. 921 the second season, 925 the third season. Combined, he had 20 shutouts in his 3 seasons as a Flyer. Also posted a 1.83 goals against average in his 3rd season. 10 shutouts as a rookie. That's crazy to me. I know the game is a little different back. I think that's pre-lockout, right?
Yes, it is.
But even still, that's impressive.
It is. Absolutely is. It's a shame, really. But another goalie, same era, had a little bit more success, I guess, in the playoffs, but I don't think he was as good, would be Robert Ashe. Robert Ashe was their goalie right there, 0-4 against Tampa. Like, when the team went on some runs, he was one of the goalies there for sure. Oh, my God. Excuse me.
Oh, my God.
I'm so sorry. That's how I feel about Robert Ashe now. I thought I was going to cough. I don't know what happened there. There's a mute button for a reason. Oh, Jesus.
Holy shit, dude.
No,
the old cough burp guy.
I even like, never mind. Anyway, Robert Ashe. Let's go with, Brian Boucher. You got to mention
how
Brian
I feel
Boucher.
about Robert Ashe, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Jim.
No, that's your burp. That's how I felt about it.
He was.
I wasn't a big fan of Robert Ashe.
He was the goalie on a team that went places, but that's about as much credit as I can give him.
Yeah, he was fun to watch at times, but not. I didn't enjoy watching him, and his numbers. And I'd be curious to see this for other goalies as well. But his numbers after the lockout skyrocketed. He went from 2.04 goals against average in 03-04 to 2.97 in 05-06, and his save percentage dropped 18 points after the lockout from one season to the next. So
I guess that's why they got beer on.
Yeah, a little interesting there. Yeah, but go ahead.
The league changed, and a lot of guys didn't adjust.
Yep.
Brian Boucher, obviously one of the, in my opinion, the greatest save in Flyers history. However, was that yeah, it was 2000. So yeah, it was right in that range against Patrick Elias in a breakaway in the Eastern Conference Finals. But ultimately, he's a guy who's always been here. He's how many 10 years with the Flyers? 4 or 5. I've seen him play with the Phantoms on multiple occasions in his career. You know, like he was part of that Stanley Cup run. I think that save. Now, the second best save he would make would probably be the one to stone the Rangers to get into the playoffs. Much more, you know, I guess meaningful in regards because everybody remembers the celebration and obviously the playoff run that followed. And who knows? Maybe if he stays healthy, maybe the playoffs has a different outcome. I don't know. So obviously, and he's beloved here, obviously. After that, Sergei Bobrovsky. Now, this is where this list gets a little interesting. Talent-wise, he outranks the rest by a large margin. It's easy to make him number one, but that wasn't the – and I hate that we had to trade him, but he would have he didn't do that here, unfortunately. No. He was only here for, 2.5 seasons, something like that?
Just 2, yeah.
Just 2 seasons, and we know why he had to ask to be traded. And I don't know. I guess we'll come to the decision with what we want to do with Bob. We'll come back to that. But he's either number one or he's not on the list at all, I guess. So forgot to mention Brizgalov. He's a goofball one for sure. Flyers still paying him. Don't think he's going to make the list. But, Jim, anything on Bob or Briz?
So I can't believe Briz didn't play here for more than 2 seasons. It seemed like longer for me for some reason, but he only played in 109 games, 59 games his first season and 40 the next. It's crazy how fast that kind of blew up in their face. But Bobrovsky, I don't have – Bobrovsky gets a lot of love from Philly fans, but he was here for 2 years. And, you know, his second season was nothing to write home about. His first season, 54 games, 915 save percentage. His second season, 302 goals against average, 898 save percentage. And then it looks like he played in St. Petersburg. Was there a lockout or something that went on there?
What, 15?
In 2012, 2013, before he played for Columbus. I'm not sure what happened there.
I don't remember. Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, the very next season – he put up a 932 save percentage, and I think that's the year he won the Vezina. So for me, and if you feel different and guys in the chat feel different, I'll be happily voted over. But for me, I wouldn't have him on my all-century Flyers team. Like for me, I would, and I'm not sure a lot of people really remember Czechmonic, but I feel like Czechmonic was a Flyer longer than Bobrovsky, and he was better while he was a Flyer. You know what I mean?
I think so, for at least a year.
Yeah.
It's tough. I get and that's kind of the point I'm making. Like, do you put him on the list when, I mean, I love Bob. I understood he was a prospect. You know, I don't even think we wasted a draft pick on him. I think Holmgren just kind of signed him. Yeah. And there was so much promise there. Like some of the saves he were making were crazy. But back then he was dropping down, you know, too fast, and they were beating him high. So, and then he had that debacle in the playoffs in 2011. They managed to get by Buffalo, shockingly, but they started late, and they started Boucher, they started Bob, and Ed Snyder's like not doing well, and he pulled the old do something about this goaltending now. So that's where Briz came from. Bob obviously does not want to be a career backup. I get it. Asked for the trade, and the rest was history. However, after the Brizgalov thing did not work out, we traded for, we may have already had him, I can't remember the timeline. We traded for Steve Mason, who is, depending on who you talk to, either beloved for his time here, and just we had a truly good goalie for a little stretch there, or just like the rest, and people, shit all over him. So I was of the latter. I'm a big Steve Mason fan. I try to explain to some of my friends who started getting into hockey around like 2014, 15 that like, look, some people watching like goal against, goalie equals bad. And it's not the case. Mason was a damn good goalie when he first got here. And, he kind of trended downwards, but ultimately he's one of the better goalies I think we've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, it was I remember him being very solid. And I don't know if it just wasn't, I didn't pay attention to the goalie position as much. but very solid numbers as a Flyer. Save percentage wise, we're looking at 917, 928, 918, 908. And what I'm finding weird here is he's the same exact age as Sergei Bobrovsky, Jack. And Steve Mason has not played in an NHL game since 2017, 2018.
Some guys can't be backups, man. I remember he signed with Winnipeg after us, and he could not prepare himself to be a backup goalie. And he was already trending downwards as it was. So I didn't realize that. All his success seemed to have came early in his career. Rookie of the year.
That's right.
Kind of that early tenure with the Flyers, and it is what it is. Everybody's different. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, career 911 save percentage. So a nice little career for Steve Mason. But yeah, if people wanted to put him in Flyers top 3 goalies for the all century team, I wouldn't argue against it. I wouldn't argue against it.
So what is your top 3, Jim? Those are all the ones I felt worth naming. If anybody wants to throw a goalie I didn't name out there, like a Jeff Hackett or something like that, I don't think any of these guys are going to make it. If I somehow goofed and I'm missing like a big time goalie, I don't think I am. Please let me know. But this is we're going to make our list basically from these players. I only put some names on there just to kind of discuss. But yeah, Jim, who's your, you have a 3, or do you want to give me your 3rd, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'll toss some names out here. So some fun names that I kind of remembered watching growing up that, that are just fun to mention. Look, John Van Beesbrook just missed the cut for this. He played for the Flyers in 1999. That's a fun name. But I remember really enjoying watching Roman Cechmanek play. So he kind of holds like a nostalgic place in my heart kind of thing. I don't know if he needs to be in the top 3. I'm kind of going to leave the top 3 up to you here. But Roman Cechmanek, as I mentioned, is a nostalgic name for me when I think about the Flyers growing up kind of thing. Niittymaki, I remember watching, who we mentioned. Boucher, 4 different Flyer tenures. You mentioned the save against Patrick Elias. I'm looking at names here. Rob Zepp, Peter Mrazek. There's a lot of just not great names on here, but Mike McKenna played a game for the Flyers.
Year we had 8 different guys.
That's another thing too, because before the show, I'm like, only 66 goalies have ever played for the Flyers. And you mentioned, 8 played in one season. And that's kind of blew my mind a little bit how bad that year was.
I think Neil Little played in like 01, 02 game here or there.
Little, yeah.
Maxime Ouellette, former first-round pick we traded for, I think Adam Oates or something. I don't know. These something like that. But yeah, so we've had our fair share of goofs. It's the goaltending position. It is what it is. So my list, I think I'm set. At number 3, I'm going to go with Brian Boucher. I think he's a lifetime Flyer. He looked great, in that run against the Devils leading up to and whatnot. He's been in around. He's been through some stuff, and he's a Flyer through and through. Through all, he's just a good soldier, man. Gotta love it. Number 2, I'm going to go with Roman Cechmanek. I was a fan at the time. Things didn't go so good back then, but as we had hoped. But he came in hot. And he finally gave him some stability, and sometimes things just don't match up. He was a firecracker for sure, but we're talking about the goaltending position. Wish we could have got him earlier in his career. Things were a little different back then, so it is what it is. But I'll go with Cechmanek at number 2, and number 1 I'll go with Steve Mason. Number 1 and number 2 is pretty close for me, but I will definitely go with Steve Mason at number 1. His first season here with the Flyers was really good. I think if they had given him a better defense, I think that things could have been a little bit different. Hextall kind of took over that tenure there, and things all went downhill, so it is what it is, but Mason's going to be and I've decided to leave Carter Hart and Bobrovsky off the list because the Hart situation, I don't need to go into that. And Bob only being here for 2 of his rookie years, basically, which he just didn't get to show us a lot. If I'm getting the Bob that played in Columbus or Florida, different story, but I don't think that's how it goes. So that's my list. Mason 1, Cechmanek 2, and Boucher 3.
That's a great list, Jack, and well done by you. I do want to mention something here, and it's not poo-pooing anybody, but man, we just went back 25 years for the Flyers goaltending, and the best we could do was Steve Mason, who we mentioned had a very good career. So I don't want that to sound so negative, but Steve Mason.
Show the chat here. I'm getting some questions. These are all the goalies we discussed.
Yeah. So Steve Mason, Roman Cechmanek, and Brian Boucher. And then I think about the Rangers, who, if they were going to do a last 25 years, 3 goalies,
Oh man,
you're looking at Mike Richter, Henrik Lundqvist, and Igor Shesterkin. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ. It's like
Yeah.
Team Canada or something back in the
Yeah.
day.
That's
Oh
some
my God.
mediocre ass shit right there, man. But
Yeah, that is some bullshit. Yeah. And
yeah.
I think 2 of those goalies were drafted like round 4 or 5 on,
Yeah.
like something like that. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's funny, but we thought we had things figured out with Carter Hart, and we're kind of doing the old Flyer merry-go-round with goalies here, and
We are again. Here we
are.
are.
We'll see what happens. But great job there, Jack. Good list, and we'll I don't know. We'll see what we're going to do next week, whether it's forwards or defense. But we'll make it fun. So when you guys come back next week for the show, we'll make it known what we're going to do: forwards, defense, and bring your guys to the chat. We'll have fun with this.
It's going to be tough. This is not an easy list, that's for sure.
No, yeah, the forwards and defense might be a little bit more fun because they've had some friggin' talent over the last 25 years. So,
it's true.
Yeah. Jack, anything we missed before we wrap up tonight?
I don't think so. Not a whole lot has happened. We went over the goaltending still an issue, a couple trade rumors. Oh, look, I snubbed some people. Look, Cal Heater.
Yeah, we did miss Cal Heater. Yeah. Flyer great.
But yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I think the goaltending was the easiest for sure. It was fun, but I'm gonna have to do a little more research for defensemen. And I mean, I have the names. It's just putting the pieces together.
Yeah,
it's gonna take some time. It should be fun.
Yeah, it'll be fun. All right, Flyers are back at it tomorrow night at home against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they play again on Thursday. Once more, I can't remember who it is off the top of my head. I'm already looking forward to they have Dallas Thursday. So a tough week back home for the Flyers. Tuesday against Toronto, Thursday against Dallas, and then Saturday night. Jack, will you be in the house for that? Cutter Gauthier and the Anaheim Ducks visit the Flyers.
I don't know. I have to figure something out.
I feel like, obviously I'll be there, but that's going to be I don't remember the last time there was a game like this in Philly where, he's going to get booed whenever he touches the puck. The emotions are going to run high. How will the Flyers respond? It's hopefully there's some bad blood there. There wasn't as much out in Anaheim, but back home in Philly with the Philly crowd, they're going to be juiced up. They're going to want blood. Will it translate to the team? That's what I'm curious to see. So
I gotta see. I gotta check my schedule here. I'm definitely watching, but I gotta make sure if I can get there, I'll lose my voice. I will. That game has been circled on my calendar, and I ain't gonna be quiet like Cutter.
No,
you're gonna hear me. I'll make my presence known.
I don't think I've seen a sellout yet this year, but I'm curious to see what the stands look like for Cutter Gauthier. That's going to be an interesting one. So tough week ahead for the Flyers. They finish off with an emotional game Saturday night against the Anaheim Ducks and Cutter Gauthier. Post-game show's coming back. Flyers are back home. I'm back home. So you guys can find the post-game show tomorrow night after the Flyers and Toronto Maple Leafs. Tune in for that.
Yeah, Jim, I heard that was the last 10 o'clock game of the season, so I think you're good.
Thank God, man. Yeah, it's winter break has definitely been a winter break for me over here. So thank you for everyone for coming back and watching us once again this week. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to subscribe, follow us on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm, gets us in front of more eyes. Give us a like and a subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, set alerts, so you're the first to know when we drop a new episode. And for all of our latest episodes, articles, and updates, head over to hwhockey.net. I'll be back tomorrow night with the post game. Jack and I will be back next week for another show talking Flyers all-century team. I think we're going to do the defense. So come with your names prepared, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.